In our last episode, we discovered the ruins of the Garrahan mining headquarters. There we found the blueprints for the excavator power armor developed by the Garrahan company, and we were able to craft ourselves a complete suit. Doing so, we completed the quest Minor Miracles, and as a reward, we got the power armor workstation plan for our camp. But while exploring the ruin, we uncovered a pre-war drama concerning the Garrahan mining family. Vivian, matriarch of the Garrahan family, was the CEO of the Garrahan Mining Company. She was the one who had her team develop the excavator power armor. Since power armor had to be run by humans, this was her way of both trying to innovate with mining technology and allowing her workers to keep their jobs. However, she made the fateful mistake of challenging rival company Hornwright Industrial to a competition. Her men in their excavator power armor against Hornwright's auto miners to see which company could mine the most ore. And Garrahan lost. Not by much, by only about a ton, but they still lost. And the media had a field day with it. This completely devastated Vivian because it forced her to choose between going bankrupt as a company or firing some of her employees. She chose to fire some of her employees and replace them with Hornwright's auto miners. Replacing human labor with automation is a theme that we've detected in pre-war Appalachia time and time again. We learned from a security terminal at Garrahan headquarters that Vivian's decision sparked outrage and protests amongst her former employees. Protests that led to an explosion going off so that the miners could access an underground shuttle that led between the Garrahan mining headquarters and Vivian's home. At the end of this tunnel, we discovered that the elevator to her home was broken, but there are many ways to get to the Garrahan mansion. The Garrahan mansion is nestled in a small town called Bramwell. Bramwell is a real-world town where people made rich from West Virginia's mining boom built all of their lavish homes. Bramwell was called the home of millionaires, and at one time had the highest per capita population of millionaires in the United States at the time. In the Fallout universe, Bramwell is also the town of millionaires, but here we only find 3 mansions. The one off in the distance is the Hornwright estate. We'll have to explore it later. The one directly before us is the Garrahan estate. We'll explore this today. And the one off to the right is an unfinished mansion. We read about this unfinished mansion in the security terminal at Garrahan headquarters. We read that the out-of-work miners attacked and destroyed one of these mega mansions. This is likely the same mansion. When we arrive, we find skeletons and protest signs. Jobs today or blood tomorrow. Block the bot. And we find that this mansion is surrounded by a bunch of construction vehicles, but they appear to be attacking it. We find skeletons still in the driver's seat, backhoes banging against the structure, jeeps with more signs in the back, workers united against automation. We see many spare parts littered all over the place. It appears that this mansion was under construction when it was attacked by some of the out-of-work miners, so I get the impression that no one here got hurt. Well, until the bombs dropped. I was really upset when I read about this event in the security terminal because I thought these miners destroyed someone's home. And they did because someone had to pay for this place, but it looks like no one was living here at the time. They tied cables and wires around some of the support structures and then used bulldozers and backhoes to tear these big pieces of metal down. Just down the road from the unfinished mansion, we find a bunch of protectrons wandering around. But upon closer inspection, we discover that these are the auto miners.
Rare minerals detected error. Collection from living being not currently authorized. Resuming standard collection.
And they're still working after all of these years. These slightly modified protectrons are the Hornwright auto miners that defeated the elaborate Garrahan excavator power armor in the contest? It seems hard to believe. Hornwright must have used an army of them. We don't see the level of destruction that we saw at the unfinished mansion at the Garrahan mansion. The Garrahan mansion is right across the street from the Garrahan mining headquarters. Vivian and her family wanted to live close to their business. There are 2 ways to get to the mansion. The first is to take a right into the mansion from the main road. Here we see a sign, private property, no trespassing. and evidence of protests. Jobs now or else, we see spray painted on a wall. In the Garrahan driveway, we find the ruins of a number of cars, including one long stretch limo. There are a number of empty booze bottles in the back seat and falling out of this limo, giving us the impression that Vivian was so upset by her loss to Hornwright Industrial and having to fire some of her employees that she resorted to drink. There is a police car in this driveway, giving us the impression that the police did have to be called, at least at one time, to deal with some of the protests. And heading towards the front door, we see sandbag barricades, still partially erected after all of this time. The other path that leads to the mansion is directly behind it. This is the path we discovered in our last episode. This path leads deep into the woods and ends at the bunker entrance to the underground tram that takes us to Garrahan Mining Headquarters. But now to explore the estate. Heading through the main door, we find a huge lobby with an elevator pillar in the middle of this room. There is another sandbag barricade just in front of the elevator. And also in front of the elevator, we find a pushcart with a note. Can't find the key card. Look, I don't know where you are or what's taken you so long, but I can't get this son of a gun elevator open. I've tried the hammer, the drill, the blowtorch. Hell, I even strapped some mines to the damn thing and barely made a scratch. What the hell do they make these things out of? I'm gonna try to see if I can find the key card over in the mining headquarters. If not that, maybe one of those mining power armor things. If you get back before I do, hold tight. This note may explain the body of the settler that we found in admin inside the Garrahan Mining headquarters. There are 3 key cards that grant access to the estate, one in Vivian's office, one by the service door at the end of the underground tram that leads here, and one in the admin area where we found the settler corpse. And we find all the tools she tried to use to get into here lying on the pushcart, including the drill. The settler must have worked at the store for a while. We find a pack of cigarettes and 5 neatly organized cigarettes laid out right next to it. On the reverse side of the elevator, we find a beautiful Art Deco human sculpture, which is both beautiful and creepy, the ruins of a couple of arcade cabinets, and that's it for this lower level. Since we retrieved the key card from the Garrahan Mining headquarters, we can go ahead and swipe the ID card reader to gain access to the elevator. The door slides open, and inside we find 2 options. We can go to the 2nd level or the 3rd level. We'll start by going to the 2nd level and then climb the rest of the way up to the top floor of the estate. We arrive on the 2nd level, and we're immediately discovered. That was a diseased eyebot, which itself is confusing, but we don't have time to ponder, for we get attacked by more robots. There was another diseased robot attacking us, okay. Looks like despite how much she wanted to keep jobs for people, she wasn't afraid to resort to automation to protect her home. Some of these robots were called Protectron Strike Breakers, and perhaps it was these robots and the security measures that Vivian had in place here that explains why this place is still standing. We turned west from the elevator, and instead of going up a staircase to the next floor, we'll explore the western end of this lower floor. The western end appears to be a small kitchen. We find a sink, some countertops, a refrigerator, a small lounge right next to this, and a door leading to a private bedroom. There is a mining helmet in here, and a desk covered in cigars, cigarettes, and Nuka-Cola. It has a private bathroom, but at the moment we have no idea whose room this is. Heading out the door, we can explore the eastern side of this floor. There is a door to the north that leads outside. We find a walkway that completely encircles the mansion. Moving to the eastern side of this floor, we find huge cages set out. Inside the cages are all sorts of plants, trees, and what appears to be play equipment. There are ropes, a tire swing, and a little souvenir toy sloth in one of the trees. There are many of these cages. All of them have plants. One has some bird houses. We find a number of bird cages lying all over the place. What could this mean? Nearby we find a chemistry workbench, and against the northern wall we find big crates of food, one of which is labeled sloth food, and this tells us what was inside the cages. Someone here at Garrahan was keeping a bunch of pet sloths for some reason. But that's it for this bottom floor. To continue, we need to go up a staircase to the west. This leads to the next floor. This leads to a billiard room. We see another staircase going up, and more robots patrolling this level. We moved right through the den of this floor to kill all of the enemies. This room has a private bathroom and a skill level 0 locked medicine cabinet where we can find some buff out. Heading west out of this bedroom, we find a door to another room to the south. Here we find a workstation on the other side of a security gate, and we discover that this is some sort of firing range. On the counter, we find some ammunition and target dummies at the end of the firing range. And looking through the security gate, we see a unique-looking minigun on display on one of the counters. It's black and white with a black drum and silver barrels. But to access it, we have to hack a skill level 3 locked wall terminal. After doing so, the door swings open, and we can loot this beautiful-looking minigun. After looting small amounts of ammunition in this room, we can inspect our new find, only to discover that it's a level 35 weapon. Okay, good for mid-game, I suppose. At full condition, though. However, when we equip it and then take a look at it, we discover that the paint scheme has disappeared. I didn't modify this in a workbench, I didn't repair it. All I did is loot it and equip it, and once equipped, the paint scheme completely vanishes. It becomes just a standard level 35 minigun. I can't explain this, the paint scheme looked really cool. I've seen other people find the same paint scheme on this minigun in this security closet, but it doesn't appear on the usable weapon. So quite a bit of a disappointment there. We kind of raced through this floor to kill all the robots, but we really don't miss much. The room we ran through was a bit of a den. There's a bearskin rug on the ground and a wet bar in the back. And the only way out of this floor is to go back the way we came. This leads back to the billiard room, and from here we find 2 staircases up to the next floor. There's a ruined pinball machine nearby, and looks like someone was trying to repair it. We find some tools on a shelf right next to this, but to continue we can go up either of the 2 staircases leading to the next floor up. At the top we find more Protectron strike breakers.
It's right there.
Heading into this western room, it looks like an office filled with all sorts of display cases. We find a skill level 1 locked display case against the eastern wall of this room, and inside, a black powder rifle and some 50 caliber ball ammunition. Disturbingly, we find a skull on a bookshelf here. Not so strange after the war, but weird before the war. Lots of books and trash, and 1 terminal on a desk against the northern wall. Brighton Gould's terminal. Brighton Gould, personal, entry 1. The business has done very well this month. My wife Vivian wasn't exactly thrilled when I told her we needed that cash injection to expand the jewelry store, but she's much happier now after she looked at the profit and loss statements. I honestly don't know how I could have done this without her. Not just in terms of the money, but also the emotional support. No matter how crazy of a dream I chase, she is right there behind me to back it up. I'm a lucky man. Today's reminder, Order 217, make sure the channel sets on the ring align properly. Order 219, check for damage to the clasp. Ha! So Vivian's husband, Brighton Gould, was a jeweler, had a business making jewelry. She must have married him completely outside the mining business. Her children all take her name, Garrahan, and not his Gould. And she's not afraid to occasionally help her husband's business. It's good to see that he's grateful for her help. And the next one, entry 2, Vivian came home today and just collapsed into my arms. She was a real mess. I think the pressure from Hornwright and his auto miners is getting to her. Then she told me about the challenge, the man versus machine contest. I wanted to tell her to back off, give her excavator power armor project more time to take root, but that's never been her style. I could see that fire in her eyes, the same fire I saw when we were surveying that diamond mine in Africa. 6 dry tunnels, but she still stuck with it. Most of us would have quit after 4, but lo and behold, the 7th was the jackpot. She pushed back then, and it paid off. But this situation has me worried. Finding diamonds is one thing, but betting everything on a dream? That's the real challenge. So they were diamond miners. That's how they met. Brighton went on to become a jeweler. Vivian went on to invent mining equipment. What a cool couple. But it seems like everyone, even Brighton, thought that Vivian's challenge was a bad idea. Why didn't she listen to anyone around her? Why did she continue to go through with it? In the final one, entry 3, it's been a week since Garrahan lost the challenge to Hornwright, and Vivian still refuses to go out. She spends most of the day in her study and barely comes out to eat. We haven't slept in the same bed for days. She's taken this loss extremely hard. I wish I could find the words to make her feel better. I've knocked on her study door a few times, but she doesn't answer. I'm afraid that this is the first time in her life she doesn't know what to do, and it's taking its toll. Today's reminder, Order 301. Arrange the center cut and surrounding stones. Call bakery and order Vivian's favorite pastries. Oh, Vivian. Was it just the loss to Hornwright that depressed her so much that she locked herself in her room? What do you think weighed more heavily on her conscience? The loss, or having to fire her employees as a result of that loss? There is a staircase leading above us and a few more doors to the west, but we hear more protectrons. We need to clear this level before exploring. Heading out a door to the left, we arrive on a patio with a beautiful and now devastating view of the ash heap. Here we find a rad poker board game and a bunch of other scrap. Opening the eastern door to the south, we arrive at the opposite end of this chamber. We see another staircase leading up to the east and a skill level 2 locked door beneath it. Picking the lock leads to another bedroom. Let's see, whose bedroom could this be? After looting some scrap and boiled water, we find a vanity with a mirror to the northeast, so this may have been a woman's room. A 10mm pistol lying on the floor. That's a bad sign. A first aid kit on a bookshelf, and a wall safe hidden behind an overturned bookshelf. It's only locked with a skill level 1 lock, so it's easy to pick. There's a tinkerer's workbench here. We can scrap down all our junk. And we find another safe in the southwestern corner, but the lid has been blown off. But we had to pick the lock on the door to get in here. Did someone lock it behind after they looted the safe? We don't find a terminal or any notes, so we don't know whose room this is. Possibly Vivian's. It is directly opposite Brighton. Before going upstairs, we can head to the lounge area on this floor directly before the elevator. We walked right by this when we went out to the balcony. There's a first aid kit on the table, and then resting on the table behind the couch, directly in front of the elevator, we find a holotape, Isaac's message to the sloth.
The majestic sloth, so misunderstood, so intelligent. Yes, they move cautiously, with great precision. But it is not mere laziness. Oh no, my friend. It is evolution. So many of their predators, with their keen sight, adapted so well to catch prey in flight. But do they catch you? No. No, they don't. I am just a branch. Aren't you, my lovely? Don't worry. Your protector, your savior, Master Isaac. Yes, I will keep you safe.
So it must have been Isaac's room that we explored on the bottom floor, the one across from all of the cages. But it's a pretty important piece of lore because this explains the giant sloths we find here in West Virginia. They must all be the ancestors of the sloths that escaped from these cages after the war. They must have all mutated and evolved after that. Back on the 3rd floor, top of the elevator, we can take the staircase above Brighton's room to this next level. There's an empty bathroom to the left. Down the hallway a bit and again to the left, we find another bedroom. This one's pretty small. It also has a private bath where we find a medicine cabinet and a first aid kit on a wall. It's got a great view of Appalachia, but very few personal effects. No idea whose room this is. Across the hall, we find another kitchen. On the eastern end of the kitchen, we find a door to a pantry. It's rigged with a double-barrel shotgun, but looks like someone triggered this before me. On the kitchen counters, we find food, scrap, a combat knife, and a randomized plan. After looting the fridge, we see a door out of the kitchen to a large room to the south. But let's go back through the door we used to enter to get back to that hallway as a better point of reference. Looks like this was the Garrahan's formal dining room, if you can call it that, more like a formal dining vault. Look at this place. Decorated ceiling, chandeliers, grand pianos, instruments, and a microphone. Looks like they hired people to entertain them. This is more like a ballroom than anything else. We see their dining table in the southeastern corner, large enough for a party. On this table, we find 2 ammo boxes, one locked with a skill level 0 lock. And passing a Protectron charging station, we can take take a staircase up to the next level. A hallway continues east, but turning south, we see a double purple door leading to a room where we find a Protectron. Clearing the room, we'll keep our light off to avoid attracting suspicion. Looks like another bedroom. There's a woman's casual outfit on a nearby dresser, and a bathroom separated. Toilet in one room, and a sprawling, luxurious bath in another. We find a randomized plan on a curio cabinet, candles and a cigar next to the walk-in bathtub. It's more like a mini pool than a bathtub, and a separate shower. I get the impression that this may have been the daughter's personal bedroom. To the east, we see a skill level 0 locked orange door. And we kill what was likely the occupant of this room, locked behind this door for the past 25 years. This is it's a locked private closet for hobbyists. We find a big wooden paddle leaning against a skill level 1 locked safe, upon which is a straitjacket with a cop hat. There is, of course, a first aid kit just in case. Next to this, we've got another wooden paddle, a big bottle of cooking oil, some handcuffs, a clown hat, duct tape, a feather duster, and some Med-X to ease the pain. Heading out of the daughter's bedroom, we enter a large space, seating by windows to the northeast, yet another staircase leading up, a big tree in the middle of the room, and more purple double doors leading to a new room to the south. And this is yet another bedroom, but this appears to be a child's bedroom. There are all sorts of boxed games on a nearby shelf, as well as another randomized plan. There's a Vaultec University jacket and jeans on this dresser, telling us that this child wasn't a child, it was a college student. Perhaps he or she got admitted into Vaultec University at a much younger age due to family connections, which may explain all of the toys. We also find a bunch of Vaultec University flags on the wall. So this person was really proud of being a student of Vaultec University. Just as we head out, we get spotted by an Assaultron. Whew, I'll take it. After destroying the Protectrons, we see that that's pretty much it for this floor. We find a staircase leading up to yet another floor above, and a staircase leading back down. This staircase leading back down was on the opposite end of the floor we explored below. We went up the other staircase, so we never got to explore this one, but we didn't miss much. Heading down to this mezzanine level, we find one ghoul, and then a big, elaborate cabinet with some water on it, a Protectron charging dock, and then a variety of chairs, tables, and 2 different pianos, a grand piano and an upright piano. When done, we can take the final staircase to the very top floor. This leads to a huge vaulted chamber, spanning the entire length of the mansion. Where to begin? Well, turning around and going to the east, we can explore behind us first. Here we find a bit of a kitchen, or at least a bar. There's cigarettes and booze aplenty, and more bottles of hard liquor on the cabinet behind. Moving west, we find places to sit, a kitchen nook with a sink, fridge, and countertops. Here we can find a randomized plan. Disturbingly, we find a protest sign on the floor at this level. Jobs today or blood tomorrow. Does that mean the protesters got all the way up here? Nearby, we find a car on display, and it's beautiful. This is new to Fallout 76. We haven't seen this model in any of the previous games. It's a Corvega, has a Corvega logo on it, but interestingly, we don't see any wheels. Could this be a hover car? Did they have hover cars in the Fallout universe? Across from the car is a big speaker and a sound mixer with a microphone. Looks like the kids had parties here. And continuing west, we step out onto the balcony. This overlooks all of the ash heap, and the view is absolutely stunning. We see the unfinished mansion off to the northwest. The Garrahan mansion towers above it. There's a table in the middle of the porch. Looks like the kids were playing beer pong. We can turn off a nearby radio to avoid demonetization. There's an end of dungeon steamer trunk to the southeast. Speakers set out, and 3 big hot tubs. Man, the kids must have had all sorts of parties here. We find some binoculars looking off into the distance, and an absolutely stunning view. We can hop onto the ledge here and use it to walk all around Garrahan. And for our trouble, we get a gorgeous view. We see the Hornwright mansion off in the distance. It towers above this one. And that's it for the Garrahan estate. If it feels incomplete, that's because it is. We found many rooms hinting at the fact that a lot of people lived here, and each person had their own story. But we only found one terminal here. That belonged to Brighton, Vivian's husband. There are at least 2 complete terminals that were cut from the Garrahan estate, or at least are being saved for inclusion later. But we find evidence that there should have been even more than those 2. Inspecting the game files, we discover that Vivian's daughter, who occupied the room with the elaborate bath, was named Angelica Garrahan. In the code, we find buried a terminal labeled Angelica Garrahan's terminal, but it's blank. There's no content on it. But in the published game, we don't even find that. We also find Isaac Garrahan and Vivian Garrahan's terminals in the game files, but they too are also blank and missing from the published game. However, we discover 2 sons of Vivian Garrahan, whose terminals were cut from the game, but the contents of those terminals still exist in the game files. One was named Bryce. We read about Bryce back at Garrahan Mining headquarters. Vivian talked about her son Bryce because Bryce was involved with the company's operations. Her other son's name is Bill Garrahan. Even though these terminals weren't included in the game, I'll read a transcript of what was on them because they help us better understand what we just found in the headquarters. Bill Garrahan's terminal should have been on the floor that had the gun range. It had 5 entries. In the first one, Mother's been seeing that dullard of a jeweler Brighton again. Can't she see through his weak facade? He's clearly more interested in the Garrahan fortune than a meaningful relationship. I've tried talking sense into her, but she's not listening. Just the other day, I heard she's lending him thousands to expand his pitiful excuse for a jewelry store. Bill knows damn well we're already stretched thin over this stupid excavator power armor pipe dream Mother dreamed up. At this rate, we're gonna have to start borrowing money from him. This entry may give us a clue as to why these terminals were cut. We kinda get the impression from this one that Brighton was a boyfriend. But in the published terminal entries, it's clear that the 2 are married. In number 2, one of Isaac's sloths escaped from its enclosure again, and it ended up hiding in my room. Those things are too smart for their own good. I've told him time and time again, make sure the doors to all the cages are locked. But as usual, his head's in the clouds. I swear that moron is more interested in his menagerie than in his own family. I've also told him next time I flick on the lights to my room and a furry thing suddenly lunges at me, I'm gonna shoot it, stuff it, and mount it on my wall. Hell, if it was just up to me, I'd walk right down to his little zoo and wipe the little bastards out just to save us all the trouble. This one is important to help explain how the sloths escaped. We learn that Isaac has his head in the clouds and often forgets to close the doors to his cages. The sloths frequently escape, which is likely how they escaped such a tall tower to mutate into the mega sloths after the apocalypse. But we also find another reason why the terminal may have been cut. Sloths don't exactly lunge. So he's complaining about a sloth lunging at him, but it's not exactly their nature. In the third one, there was a strike today. The miners said they weren't getting enough pay and that the hours were too long. What do these commies think this is, a luxury resort? They're lucky my mother was generous enough to give them jobs in the first place. They even had the nerve to march in front of the estate, chanting and holding signs. I stepped outside with my shotgun and told them to get the hell away from our property. Then one of them had the nerve to hit me in the arm with a potato. A quick shot into the air sent them running away like ants. I think I'm gonna need to order something a little special to handle the situation, just in case things really get out of hand. In the fourth one, my special delivery came in today. I was so excited. My hands were shaking as I cracked open the shipping crate. 6 barrels, 2,000 rounds a minute, and an integrated ammo feed. It's a thing of beauty, a work of art, the pinnacle of my collection. But the cherry on top is the name I gave it, enameled right into the side. Strikebreaker. If things ever get out of hand around here with those commie miners again, I'll have the last word. Mother wouldn't approve, but she isn't going to be running Garrahan forever. This explains that minigun we found on the other side of the security door, and why it has a unique paint scheme. It even has the words Strikebreaker emblazoned right on it. They initially intended to have this terminal in the mansion, but after cutting the terminal, they couldn't explain the weapon, which may be why, when we loot it, we find it has no special properties, and it loses its unique paint scheme. And in the final one, Finally got to unleash Strikebreaker on some of those commies that were sitting up in Hornwright's Rockhound on Mount Blair. National Guard told me to stand down, the cowards, but they finally saw the light when the miners started firing back. Pretty sure I got 6 or 7 of those sons of guns all on my own, and did a nice bit of damage to Hornwright's machine at the same time. That's how things were done back in the 1920s, and that's how they should still be done today. Amen. The next cut terminal is Bryce's, and all we find here are intramail records. There are 5 of them, and the first one, which was sent from Bryce to Sean Henriksen, the security lead at the Garrahan mining headquarters. Sean, I've looked over the estimates for your security proposal, and I have a few comments. First, I can't approve the installation of automated, fully armed turrets outside of our mines. Incidents of criminal damage, costly as they are, don't justify the use of lethal force. Second, I also must deny approval for the hiring of additional security staff. I'm sorry if this doesn't meet your expectations, but I can assure you I took all of your suggestions into careful consideration. While I applaud your initiative, the cost is simply too high. Get back to me with the revision soon so I can put the rest of your proposal through in a timely manner. Okay, so this is Bryce's response to the email we read from the security lead on the security terminal back at the headquarters in our last episode. And the next one, from Bryce to his mother Vivian. Mother, all indications from our security department lead me to believe we're close to having a full-scale riot on our hands. I've taken the liberty to preemptively call the governor to help us in our time of need. He assures me that he can call in the National Guard when things get out of hand. I would appreciate it if you could speak to Bill and make sure he doesn't decide to mete out his own brand of justice with his weapon he's so proudly been displaying in his room. I can assure you I will be on top of the situation until all the miners' demands are met. We find a discrepancy here, another reason why this may have been cut. We found Strikebreaker at the gun range behind a security door, not in Bill's room. In the next one, from Bryce to Vivian. Now that the smoke has cleared from the miners' riots, I'm happy to report that we still have a small contingent of miners willing to peacefully negotiate terms. The culprits that destroyed the mega mansion at Bramwell have already been arrested, so I can assure you that this group are simply good men and women waiting to get back to work. With your approval, I'd like to begin negotiations right away. Although the behavior of these folks is reprehensible, I feel everyone should be given a chance to redeem themselves. The faster we get them back into the mines, the faster we can start generating revenue again. And the fourth, from Bryce to Vivian. Do you know what my dear brother, your son Bill, did? He decided to, quote, lend the National Guard a hand and opened fire on the miners who were holding the Rockhound hostage. What the hell is going on around here? He has no business meddling in affairs that don't involve Garrahan, let alone bringing that kind of deplorable publicity to our already struggling company. Doesn't he know I'm dealing with a delicate situation here? It took me a solid week to negotiate a peaceful settlement with our workers, and now because of Bill, they want to come back to the table. If you don't say something to him to put him in check, I'm handing in my resignation. And the final one is from Bryce to Penny Hornwright. Dearest Penny, I hope you don't mind me contacting you like this. I'm at my wit's end and I don't know what to do anymore. Between the pressures here at work, my family's internal struggles, and what's going on with the military, everything feels like it's coming apart. The only thing that keeps me from losing it completely is knowing you're with me, which is why I wanted to ask if you'll come see me at the estate. I know your father would never approve, but now is the time that I need you most. I've known you almost all my life, and every time I was backed into a corner, you were there to save me. Well, I'm telling you, I need that again. I need you. Contact me soon. So Bryce had a love affair going on with Penny Hornwright, the daughter of Daniel Hornwright, Vivian Garrahan's competitor, the guys who beat them in the competition. Wow, the drama in this story. Straight up Montague v. Capulet stuff going on here. To finish putting the pieces together, we'll have to visit the Hornwright headquarters to see if we can find a way into the Hornwright private estate. And hopefully we won't run into any more cut terminals. I publish many Fallout videos each and every week here on my channel, so if you don't want to miss what's coming, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you feel like you're still missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I have a shirt shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else. You can find my designs on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find them on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, stickers, mugs, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.